everyone's talking about Strixhaven right now and what a giant piece of shit it is, which was kind of predictable going in. But sitting over there under the Christmas tree right now, I have a copy of Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, which I'll be able to delve into and look into what sort of bullshit it's got going on, because it seems to have been overlooked in all the furor over Strixhaven. You want a good D&D Magical University setting? Go to Drive-Thru RPG and look up one of the two Glantry books that they have available for print. There's a version made for, I want to say, second D&D, AD&D, and there's a version for old BX D&D. Either one is good. Gives you a proper Magical University setting in a kingdom ruled by magicians. It's way better than what you'll find in Strixhaven. Pretty much guaranteed sight unseen. But what I wanted to speculate a little bit about is the upcoming D&D Evolution, which is supposed to come out in 2024. Absolutely pure speculation here. No behind the scenes information of any sort whatsoever. Just purely just going off, just sitting here thinking about it. And the name Evolution implies some things, I feel. Like what is it to evolve your role-playing game? Like what kind of angle are they going to go here for? And I don't know. My suspicion, which could be wrong, but my suspicion is going with the sorts of trends that they're showing, where they want to have a tighter, more curated experience that's less in the hands of dungeon masters who can, interfere with how they want to present their IP, combined with the fact that your character's choice of player race is now basically entirely a cosmetic feature that has no intrinsic effect on your character's game stats, and since it has no mechanical influence on the game, it's pretty much only there purely for imaginative visualization. It's not real in terms of how the game itself actually functions. It doesn't do anything. Just between those things, I kind of wonder if D&D Evolution is going to be something that we're going to have on like Facebook Meta. Is it going to be like some sort of virtual reality gaming experience, where in many ways it's as much a sequel to D&D Beyond as it is a sixth edition. The fact that they're not even calling it a sixth edition, that it's D&D Evolution, I feel maybe might suggest something, about that they're not actually putting out a sixth edition, and that's why they're not going to call it that. They're evolving AD&D to something that's even further than Beyond, and your ability to go online and have a perfectly crafted intellectual property experience that is exactly the way they want you to have it. The avatar you choose for your character in your little virtuality D&D world, it's just that, just for appearance. It's only there so people can recognize your brilliance for wanting to play an owl, but has no actual mechanical effect on what happens. Also in virtual reality, they're not going to be wanting people flailing around or anything fun. It'll go hand in hand with the more narrative-based, we're going to talk our way out of this situation kind of D&D style that's slowly being introduced, which ironically used to just be like something back in the 90s and even earlier, just like, hey, maybe there's other ways for characters to like advance the story without having to hack and slash everything, and maybe even earn experience by defeating their foes in a more rhetorical fashion. But now doing that kind of stuff now has been tainted by like this dripping agendized stuff they're doing there at Wizards of the Coast, and like I worry about that harming the community of players in a way, because like now they're gonna like reflexively think that any attempt to introduce something in a role-playing game where the characters are verbally negotiating their way through a scenario as somehow being weak and woke, When that kind of stuff way predates. The thing is like it doesn't have to be one or the other. Like they should all be options that each individual dungeon master has at their disposal. But like I say, they're kind of tired of the individual dungeon master because they can't ever get around the fact that once we have the books, like when we're running a game in our own home, there's like nothing they can do to stop us from doing whatever we want with the material. We can change it, we can edit it, we can remove things, we can add things, we could drastically change background details, we can change how characters look. Like all the changes that came in the, Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft that people complained about, like, oh my God, they race switch this or they gender swap that. Well, unless you're playing at a tournament environment and a convention, when you're at your own home, you can still use that exact same book and get an old copy of, Domains of Dread from 2nd or 3rd edition and just readjust everything back and just use the stats from the new book to go along with 5th edition characters. But you don't actually need the pictures they put in these books don't actually change anything for you. And that's a problem for them because, especially since they're filtered not only through a toy company but through a card game company on top of like who actually is owning and producing Dungeons and Dragons now. The branding is the image. D&D isn't the game mechanics anymore. D&D, the thing that makes D&D, and not just an OSR game, is the presence of stuff like Illithids and Beholders. It's nothing to do with the craft of the game, nothing to do with the type of stories you tell. It's entirely about the branded IP and how better to stay in control of your branded IP and evolve to the next level than by doing a version of D&D that's entirely based on Facebook meta. It would go hand in hand with the kind of stuff that meta's doing, because all the talk of them trying to get together with various religious groups and social organization clubs because they want to use meta as the new social interface for everyone. And this period, don't do this, guys. Facebook is just trying to sell us a boring VR video game that has nothing to do. If you had a PlayStation 3 and you remember that PlayStation Home thing where you could just go walk around a little city and go watch PlayStation commercials in a fake theater with a bunch of avatars of generic looking people and everyone lives in the exact same apartment with the exact same decorations you can decorate your fake virtual apartment with. And most of the people you talk to are mainly just trying to talk you into giving them your password so they can hack your account. That's what they're trying to make everyone in the world try to use somehow. Everyone's just going to be comfortable sitting around with goggles on. Even with lightweight plastics and stuff, you're still sitting around with weight in your head and glowing screens right up against your eyes. Remember when you were a kid and how you're told you're not supposed to sit too close to the television or you'll go sterile or some shit like that or it'll affect your vision? Well, having video screens right here like this 12 hours a day, day after day after day, that's going to be great for human health and sanity. Plus you're not there. We should all resolve now before it comes out that we're not going to play along with Facebook meta. Unfortunately, they're going to do like any tech company. They're going to pay social influencers to get on meta, and then because people have to know what the fuck Kim Kardashian is saying, they'll get on meta too, and then their parents will get on meta because like any good social website, your parents have to be on there stalking you and looking at all your posts and leaving weird, awkward comments and intruding themselves into your conversations, just like on Facebook or Twitter or wherever else your parents have managed to track you down to online. And the whole world's going to just do that now. Because we just ignore all the science fiction that's written out there to warn us to avoid certain things seems to just be taken by people in powers as blueprints. Remember how Philip K. Dick was supposed to be a warning about security and surveillance and people going mad and blah? Well, the CIA and NSA and other intelligence agencies took Philip K. Dick's works and were like, wow, this is great. We should make all of this. The exact opposite lesson was learned from these stories. And it just feels like, since they're aiming to have it to be like an online virtual social club, D&D is be a perfect fit because you have the built-in need to have a bunch of people having some sort of virtual space they can all hang out. And it comes built in with it all sorts of excuses and reasons and themes, more importantly, intellectually propertized, potentially profitable themes that you can buy for yourself, so you can have a racial avatar of whatever D&D race you like most, and then you can pay for access to have, you know, backgrounds and settings to look like you're in castles or on some desert plain or in a forest. It's probably all going to be lame. Like, I don't even know, like, how are you going to even do, like, run adventures in that kind of environment? I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. As I say, this is entirely just me speculating in the middle of the night while smoking weed. So this, you know, gigantic grain of salt, like a meteor from heavens, goes along with everything I just said. And yet, I personally feel like there's a little hint of logic. D&D offers something that Facebook Meta kind of wants, because like I said, it gives them all the set dressing they need for people to be in Facebook Meta. It gives them a set dressing for a virtual background, gives them a set dressing for the avatars they can all use, and a reason to be there. And then Facebook Meta offers to, you know, Dungeons & Dragons Evolution the ability to finally have rock hard, complete and total control of how people are playing D&D from that point outward, as long as they're playing D&D Evolution. And also the fact that, you know, D&D Evolution is more reminiscent of D&D Beyond in its naming scheme than, you know, first edition, second edition, third edition, so on and so forth. So, yeah, I just have a feeling that could be it. Could be it. And that's it. So, like I say, don't take this as like some sort of revelation from on high. Just a theory of mine. Leave comments below about your theories or what you think about whether or not this might be a plausible concept for exactly what D&D Evolution has in store for all of us and our wonderful new future in the metaverse. The Matrix will come true, but it's going to be a choose-your-own Matrix, so maybe that's better. It's voluntary. It's not like we're being forced in the pods to being milked for our sweet, delicious battery life. Oh well. Stay waspinated. Hit buttons, things, all the good stuff, and have a good one.